Carlos's quest for a seat will be coming to an end soon. Sergio Perez in an awkward position after Red Bull's appearance at Goodwood, and Leclerc reveals why he is the best person to challenge Max wheel to wheel. Do consider subscribing. Let's get straight into the latest F1 news. With his Red Bull Formula One involvement over, Adrien Newey has support to see the RB17 hypercar through to completion, as rivals lurk looking to lure him back to Formula One. One of the most successful Formula One designers of all time, Newey will officially become a free agent after the first quarter of 2025, though he is no longer involved with Red Bull's F1 operations. Instead, their RB17 hypercar, overseen by Newey, is his final contribution to the organization. Ferrari, Aston Martin, and McLaren have all been linked with a move to bring Newey back to Formula One. But while he is getting some holiday time in now alongside work on the RB17, that project is not over, with Red Bull giving Newey their blessing for him to see the project through after the RB17's reveal at the 2024 Goodwood Festival of Speed. Put to him that the RB17 represents a fitting end to his Red Bull tenure, which started back in 2006, Newey told the Formula One website. As it's turned out, yes. I mean, it was never intended that way, of course. When we started the car in very early 2021, I never kind of even considered that I would be no longer with the team come 25, or going into Q2 of 25, so in that sense, yes, it is. But having said that, I will continue to be involved in the development of the RB17 through production and so forth. I've really put a lot of time into this in terms of evenings and weekends, trying to fit it in with F1. I certainly want to see it through to completion. The shareholders at Red Bull, Christian Horner, Red Bull team principal, everybody else is very supportive of that, so I will be still involved on this side of things. We're in a very important stage of RB17 now in terms of detail drawing release. We've still got some aerodynamic work to do on the parts that haven't been fixed yet. We've got all the considerations of how we go about the servicing plan, servicing costs, how all that works, so there's a lot of work to be completed in the next 6 months or so. So, with no F1 duty, I can now concentrate on that. At the same time, I can also take a bit of holiday time. I've been kind of in the business pretty much non-stop for a long time now, so having a little bit of a break is nice. Newey did not give much away when it comes to any potential future Formula One involvement, but said everything else is a bonus at this stage of his career. Ultimately, it's not why I do the job, said Newey when asked if he has another F1 run in him. From the age of 10 or 11, I always wanted to be a designer in motor racing, and I've managed to achieve that, so everything else is a bonus, really. My passion has always been trying to add performance to cars, to race cars, so the rest is, of course, part of it, but it's not what wakes me up and motivates me. Zak Brown didn't hold back in discussing his view that Formula One teams should have less sway in voting on the application of FIA rules, saying that the team principal meetings can get pretty embarrassing as everyone votes for rules that benefit their teams in the short term. The McLaren CEO has admitted that he'd prefer teams have less authority and that the ultimate decision-making and application of the rules be left to Formula One and FIA in order to create a fairer and better sport. Speaking to media at the British Grand Prix, Zak Brown addressed his concerns that giving F1 team principals too much sway in deciding on and applying rules creates inconsistent rulings in embarrassing team principal meetings. It does make you wonder, how did we go racing without any of this stuff for as long as we did and not have any of these controversies? Brown asked, regarding the penalties applied to Lando Norris and Max Verstappen after their contact at the Austrian Grand Prix. I think the teams collectively are pretty guilty of creating a lot of these issues themselves by overcomplicating what we want in race cars, what we want on regulations, Brown continued. Because something will happen, and we'll all spend an inordinate amount of time getting into so much detail, and we don't necessarily think about the unintended consequences. So that comes back to my view, which I think I've been consistent on. I'd like to see the teams have less authority as much of a voice through voting for all these different things that we vote on. We're all conflicted in some way at some point, and the threshold for teams to be able to rally together to block something that is not in there. I think we do need to give more of the power back to Formula One and the FIA to do what's right for the sport. I think we're our own worst problem. Brown noted that these changes would need to come in the next draft of the Concord Agreement, but that he may be in the minority in his beliefs. Not everyone is on the same page because they want to have the ability to influence the outcome, Brown said. It can be pretty embarrassing at times in the team principal meetings. Brown pointed to one particular example. When Lando was up on penalty points 2 years ago, we made our case that actually the majority of his penalty points weren't dangerous, and Otmar, Safnauer of Alpine, was totally against it, because obviously everyone wanted to get Lando banned. Fast forward 12 months, Gasly's up against it. Otmar brings forward the same exact case that we brought forward, and we were like, dude, you voted against that. He didn't even know where he voted. Brown stated that that kind of mindset was not healthy, as it results in an application of rules that relies largely on how a team feels in the moment, as opposed to teams deciding on what would be good for the future of Formula One. He continued that Formula One needs to take this kind of what's good for me today vote out of the system and let the FIA and Formula One regulate for the fairness of the sport. That means you're going to win some and lose some, and there could be some times that McLaren loses in the short term, Brown admitted. But I believe McLaren want to race in a fair and sporting and equitable way, which means sometimes it might go for you, sometimes it might go against you, but over the long haul, if we're all in a sport that is about total fairness and things are equal for everyone, I think that's just a better sport, and we all win. Daniel Ricciardo admits his current struggles to string together consistent strong performances is his biggest frustration, knowing he is laughing if he could amid intensifying Red Bull speculation. Heading into the F1 2024 campaign, Ricciardo, racing with Red Bull's junior team VCARB, was seen as the top challenger to Sergio Perez's seat at Red Bull, but Ricciardo's struggles this season put that plan on hold, perhaps. Losing out to VCARB teammate Yuki Tsunoda in both the race and qualifying F1 2024 head-to-head so far, Ricciardo is the driver whose position is not yet decided for F1 2025. But while speculation initially revolved around Red Bull reserve Liam Lawson replacing Ricciardo, now Ricciardo to Red Bull talk has returned. A P4 in the Miami Sprint, as well as P8 and P9 finishes in the Canadian and Austrian GPs respectively more recently, demonstrated the strong showings which Ricciardo remains capable of, with Perez's alarming dip in form since signing a new Red Bull deal, reigniting speculation that Ricciardo could take his place. Media understands that performance clauses exist for both drivers which would allow for such a swap, with Red Bull senior advisor Helmut Marko having said that a decision will be made on Red Bull's driver plans over the summer break. But, with Ricciardo losing out to Tsunoda over one lap and in the race last time out at Silverstone, it highlighted the inconsistency which the 8-time race winner knows is holding him back. It's my biggest frustration, Ricciardo admitted to the Formula One website. It's a frustration because I look at myself in the mirror and say I can do this very, very well, so how do I make sure I do it consistently? Because if I do, I'm laughing. But it's more positive than negative. There will be a day when I won't be able to do it as good, but I'd much rather have these sporadic good days that it shows I've still got those capabilities to do something great. And then it's up to me to unlock it more often. Ricciardo revealed that it was after the Monaco Grand Prix where he put thought to how he could change his approach, which included ramping up his time spent with performance coach Pirri Salmela. A few things have changed, said Ricciardo on his recent improvement. It was after Monaco I was scratching my head a little bit. I felt like I was at the race weekend. I was ready to go, but the results weren't really coming. With the help of my team and people around me, I tried to address and see how I can change some other things. Okay, maybe race weekends are okay, but what about the week leading up to the race? Could you be doing something better to prepare and to feel more ready to go racing? If you feel ready, maybe you're not 100%. For example, one thing I've changed. When I got back in last year, I decided to do things on my own for a bit, do my training. I felt I had been doing it long enough and felt I knew what I need. It worked for me a little bit. But now I've started more full-time working with Pirri. He's always been at track with me since I got back, but I'm utilizing his expertise a bit more. Ultimately, it's just remaining open-minded. Even if 6 months ago something worked great, it doesn't mean it will now. So I'm just trying to search everywhere, where I can find a few percent here, a few percent there. Because after all, Ricciardo is well aware that in Formula One, the stopwatch doesn't lie. Yes, I believe so, said Ricciardo when asked if his F1 future will be decided by what the stopwatch says. And that's what I'm telling myself. I don't see any other reasons. The sport is so competitive now. Yes, there's marketing and other things involved in this sport business. But at the end of the day, the stopwatch doesn't lie, and that's my best way to keep doing this for longer. Ricciardo was pressed directly on the Perez swap speculation when speaking to media at Silverstone, and while he stayed clear of any predictions, he teased, "Crazy things happen." "I would never make any predictions in this sport," he said. "I feel like every year that this sport goes on, the more it gets. I know it goes in the trend of the sport is getting bigger. It's becoming more Hollywood, so to speak, in terms of the profile the sport has, and also the narrative that runs with the sport now, and certainly more Hollywood in terms of it's so unpredictable. So do I have any proof that I'll be anywhere else? I do not. Crazy things happen, but I am certainly not in a place to say that or think that or predict that. So try and keep doing my thing." David Coulthard has issued some sage advice for Carlos Sainz as the Spaniard weighs up his F1 options for the 2025 season. Sainz is very much the cork in the bottle for the driver market ahead of 2025, with the current Ferrari driver trying to find the best seat for himself after being dropped from the Scuderia's lineup. Sainz is without a drive for next year, due to Ferrari being unable to pass up the opportunity to sign Lewis Hamilton, with the Spaniard having to give up his seat despite performing strongly. To the point he was briefly the only non-Red Bull driver to have won a Grand Prix in over a year, courtesy of his Singapore victory last season. But with many teams having available cockpits next year, Sainz has revealed he's had offers from up and down the grid, and he's taking his time deciding, to the point where other drivers have been unable to reveal their own plans for next year, as teams wait for Sainz to make a decision. Amongst his considerations are trying to find a cockpit that will give him a strong 2025, as well as give him confidence of competitiveness come 2026, when the regulations are refreshed with new engine and aero rules being brought in. This means having to weigh up taking a big step backward next season in order to take on a project from 2026. But 13-time Grand Prix winner David Coulthard believes Sainz should just take whatever seat offers him the best chance of strong results in 2025, rather than trying to figure out all the permutations. This comes amidst rumors that Sainz has turned down one-year deal offers with the likes of Mercedes, a team performing strongly, due to the possibility of being usurped by Kimi Antonelli for 2026, if he was to commit to the Brackley-based squad for a single season when multiple-year offers have reportedly been extended to him by the likes of Audi and Williams. In modern Formula One, I would definitely, with his talent and his age and everything, I would go for performance, Coulthard told the Beyond the Grid podcast when discussing Sainz's prospects for next season. I would go for whatever car next year I believe is going to give me performance on track. Coulthard said that rumors around some teams' preparations for 2026 ultimately mean nothing at this point, as it's simply impossible to gauge who has got a handle on the new regulations until the season actually starts in a little over 18 months' time. "I would not think about 2026 because nobody knows," he said. "Whatever the rumors are, Mercedes has the best engine rumors, Red Bull has a problem, all of these things. I saw a quote from Christian Horner this weekend going, 'Well, the guy that's leaving to go to Ferrari, Hamilton, must have seen something.' So all of that is nobody truly knows until the car goes out on the track. Because if they truly knew, then at the highest level, all of those teams would be delivering the same car in terms of performance because they've all got the same regulations." Coulthard, who parted ways with McLaren at the conclusion of 2004 and didn't immediately sign a new deal until committing to the burgeoning Red Bull project, said he'd have had no issues signing a one-year deal with a competitive team for 2005, even if there hadn't been any assurances for the years after that. "Yes, if I'd had a one-year opportunity in a team that was winning Grand Prix, or looking like they were on the cusp of that, 100%, he said, when asked what choice his younger self might have made. "Because you go there and assert yourself, deliver, and they'll want to keep you." Now, I know you could say, well, Carlos was doing a good job, he's winning Grand Prix, and they didn't want to keep him. The problem he had was that a 7-time world champion wanted to go to Ferrari, and that was just too good a marketing story, first of all, because the only marketing that Ferrari does is motor racing. You'll never see a TV advert, you'll never see a magazine advertisement. They only advertise through Motorsport, and already, Ferrari got a boost and their share price got a boost when Hamilton signed. So I think for Carlos, you've got to go for performance. Look at Valtteri Bottas. He was winning Grand Prix and not being embarrassed alongside Lewis. He went to Sauber, and he's been anonymous since. Not because he's forgotten how to drive, but the car just doesn't allow you to show yourself. Sergio Perez had to keep his smile pasted on as he awkwardly stood beside Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo for an interview at Goodwood. Amidst plenty of rumors about his future, standing right beside his current teammate, and the man most likely to take his seat, probably wasn't how Sergio Perez wanted to spend his Sunday off. Red Bull has gone big for this weekend's Goodwood Festival of Speed in the UK, with the F1 team bringing along plenty of its old machinery for demonstration runs up the hill as it celebrates its 20th anniversary. Earlier on Sunday morning, team boss Christian Horner took the wheel of an ex-Sebastian Vettel RB8. Max Verstappen climbed into the cockpit of his 2021 RB16B. Adrien Newey drove the Red Bull Aston Martin Project Valkyrie of his own design, while former F1 drivers Christian Klein, David Coulthard, and Mark Webber joined Daniel Ricciardo in piloting older Red Bull F1 cars up the hill. But the interviews with the drivers in front of Goodwood House led to one eye-opening moment, as Sky F1 broadcaster and former F1 driver Karun Chandhok spoke with Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo. Speaking about the prospects of taking part in the RAC Tourist Trophy, Verstappen said he'd be up for doing it. Maybe together with Daniel, it'd be good fun in one car, before the Dutch driver gave his former Red Bull teammate the side-eye. "Oh, you two could be teammates," Chandhok replied before the camera zoomed out to show Sergio Perez standing right beside the duo and doing his best to maintain his smile, a battle he just about won. Perez, currently Verstappen's teammate at Red Bull, is coming under increasing pressure to hold on to his seat at the Milton Keynes-based squad, with hints emerging from the Red Bull camp that a change is being evaluated for when the summer break rolls around. The understanding of Perez's contract is that he must be within 100 points of Verstappen at the conclusion of the Belgian Grand Prix. The gap is currently 137 points, meaning Perez has 2 races to close that gap down to ensure Red Bull can't utilize that clause if the team desires. The most likely contender for Perez's cockpit is Daniel Ricciardo, with the Australian having been brought back into the fold with the VCarB team last year, with an eye to keeping him as an option for Perez's seat if his form proved impressive. After a slow start to the season, Ricciardo's form has improved, to the point where Red Bull has little to lose by making a change, as Perez has scored just 15 points in the last 6 races, a position team boss Christian Horner has labeled as unsustainable. Returning to the top step of the podium after 2.5 years at Silverstone, Lewis Hamilton has still got everything that he needs to run at the top. That verdict comes from his father, Anthony Hamilton, who was in attendance to see his son make Silverstone history with a record 9th British Grand Prix. Father and son sharing an emotional embrace following the achievement. Having not won a Grand Prix since Saudi Arabia 2021, Hamilton opened up on the self-doubt and exit thoughts which had crept into his mind since the controversial conclusion to his title battle that year with Max Verstappen. After such a difficult 2021, just trying to continue to come back, but we as a team had a difficult time, he told Sky F1. There were so many thoughts and doubts in my mind along the way, to the point at times I wanted to not continue. To arrive and continue to get up and continue to try and finally succeed is the greatest feeling I can remember having. There have definitely been days between 2021 and here where I didn't feel like I was good enough or I was going to get back to where I am today. But the important thing is I had great people around me, continuing to support me. My team, every time I turned up and saw them putting in the effort, that really encouraged me to do the same thing. Otherwise, my fans, when I see them around the world, they have been so supportive, so a big thank you to everybody. When speaking with F1 TV, his father Anthony was asked about this self-doubt from Lewis, which he felt was only natural. But he made his belief clear that Lewis has still got everything that he needs to run at the top, with Silverstone the timely reminder of that. Asked how hard it has been for Lewis to pick himself back up through that winless run, Anthony replied, "He's done that on his own. And for sure he questions himself like we all do occasionally. You question yourself, and you question whether you're still good enough, young enough, strong enough. The thing is, I know Lewis. And as far as I'm concerned, he's still got everything that he needs to run at the top, and sometimes you just need reminding about that. But he knows he's got it, and what a huge confidence boost for him today." The 2024 British Grand Prix was Hamilton's last home race with Mercedes as he prepares to join Ferrari next season. Thanks for watching the video. I'll catch you in the next one.